Welcome back to Laughing in the Dark, the podcast where I hang out in haunted places with comedians. I'm your host, Sarah Jones. For this episode, I got to speak with Karen Rontowski. Karen's fast-paced, quirky, and charmingly optimistic comedy has been featured in clubs, TV, radio, and at corporate events all around the world. Karen uniquely blends comedy with her experience as a paranormal investigator, tarot, and Reiki master. Karen has appeared on The Late Show with David Letterman, Comics Unleashed, Comedy Central, and Mysteries of the Unexplained. She is a regular on the Bob and Tom radio show and is a featured performer on their CD. She is also a comedy writer for Haunted Magazine. After performing and hosting at paranormal conventions all over the world, she created the hilariously odd web series Paranormal Karen, where she has fun reporting from haunted and obscure places everywhere. She also has an in-depth podcast by the same name. You see why we're friends? Karen is originally from Pittsfield, Massachusetts. That's why I chose a Massachusetts location with all kinds of interesting paranormal goodies to discuss. For pictures that go along with this episode, check out our Instagram at Lit Dark Podcast. For now, sit back and enjoy the history and many, many legends of the mysterious Bridgewater Triangle. Hello.
Hey, is this one okay?
Yeah, this is totally going to work.
Okay, great. I can't stand the cellular phone up, the radiation up to my brain because I've been on the phone for all these years.
It's the Anunnaki. Yeah.
It's the Anunnaki.
Blame it on the Anunnaki. I love it. I feel like I don't hear anyone saying home phone anymore, so this is like really exciting.
I know. I just got it. $10 a month. I'm the only person with one.
It's just you. It's just you.
Yes.
That's awesome.
Yeah. I do tarot out for 5 hours, so I was just trying to get that cellular phone off of my brain.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Okay, yeah, I imagine.
Yeah.
So you are from where in Massachusetts again?
Pittsfield, Mass. So I am from the left side, closer to New York. I'm actually closer to New York than to Massachusetts. And to Boston.
To Boston. So
yes.
I tried to find a location as close to Pittsfield as I could. And the one that grabbed my attention the most is the Bridgewater Triangle. It's 2 hours south of Pittsfield.
Yes, and I don't know that much about the Bridgewater except from talking to a few of my friends that are investigators in Boston. But yeah, everything is kind of there. Lizzie Borden's house is kind of there,
right.
And but the Bridgewater Triangle, it sounds like one of those locations that's like the Skinwalker Ranch or when Mothman, like one of those areas that has everything going on.
Exactly. And I'm sure as we get into like some of the more details about it, you're going to be like, oh yeah, I've been there. I've heard of that place. And yeah. I'm sure that's what's going to happen. So the Bridgewater Triangle is 30 miles south of Boston, Massachusetts. It's composed of 3 invisible lines that mark the boundaries of what has come to be known as the Bridgewater Triangle. The triangle encompasses 17 towns, including Abington, Rehoboth, I'm sure I'm going to slaughter all of these names, Karen, and Freetown at each of the points. Inside the triangle are Brockton, Whitman, West Bridgewater, Middleborough, Dighton, Berkeley, Rainham, Norton, Easton, Lakeville, Seekonk, and Taunton, right at the center. I figured I'd list a lot of those out. Someone listening is going to be like, yeah, Lakeville.
I went to college in Fitchburg, which is right next to Framingham, so it sounds like I was in that triangle for 4 years, 3.5.
That explains an awful lot.
Mm-hmm.
The entire area is made up of 200 square miles in eastern Massachusetts, and it's been called a vortex of intense paranormal activity. The area was first given the name the Bridgewater Triangle by a cryptozoologist named Lauren Coleman in the 70s. Are you familiar with this individual?
It sounds familiar, but 70s I might have been. It sounds familiar. I'm going to leave it there. Sounds familiar.
He wrote a book that came out in 1983 called Mysterious America, where he included the Bridgewater Triangle.
That book I know.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so that's by Lauren Coleman. He also happened to be a paranormal researcher who was fascinated with the area after tracing paranormal activity there as far back as 1760.
Wow.
This I thought was exciting because he noted that on May 10th, 1760, witnesses reported seeing something peculiar in the sky that they described as a sphere of fire in the Bridgewater and Roxbury areas. It's exciting because May 10th is my birthday. It's like,
Oh,
yes!
and it's a sphere of fire, a ball of fire?
A sphere of fire, yeah, that they claimed burned so bright that it was even brighter than the sun.
Mm.
So not really sure what exactly that was. It could have been a
Yeah.
UFO, some kind of an orb. I mean, what do you think? I guess you might know better.
This may be completely wrong, but it could, depending on how it moved. I once got hit by a meteorite.
What?
And that, yeah, I know, in my rental car. I got hit in Oklahoma with a meteorite, but it wasn't a flame. So I guess if it was a meteorite, they would have been able to find out where it hit the earth. Like it wouldn't have just gone through. But that,
To just have it be
I'm not
hovering there, burning.
right. If it was hovering there burning, I don't know. That's interesting. Do
Wait,
they
hang
have more
on.
about
What
it?
circumstances were you in that you got hit by a meteorite? Let's
Nothing
delve
fancy.
into this.
I was literally driving to a gig with another person, and I was looking up into the sky because unfortunately that's how I drive, is looking into the sky or all over the place.
Sure.
Traffic was bumper to bumper, and I see a tiny black dot coming, and it's getting bigger and bigger, and it hits the ground, and it bounces back up and skids all the way across my rental car trunk, or the front part, the hood, goes all the way across and like literally sails upward, missing. If it had been like 2 inches to the left, it would have hit the other comic, who, by the way, that wouldn't have made me sad because he didn't pay his part of the car damage.
Oh my God. You're saying the insurance
So
didn't cover meteorite damage?
I know. Exactly. And it was the only thing, like there was nothing that could have been launched, like the way it came down and the way it was black and it had the smoke coming off of it. That's the only thing it could be. I couldn't figure anything out because no one could have hurled it that high into the sky. So I think it was a meteorite, or I guess other space debris. But that's not what you want to tell the police officer, that you got hit by a meteorite, because then you will have to take a breathalyzer.
Is that what happened?
No,
Oh.
I didn't get stopped by a cop, but it just almost shredded the whole front of the car, like the whole hood area.
God.
You could still drive it, but it was coming at such an angle. I think I was very lucky that it just slid up, but it was pretty. And speaking, here comes a motorcycle. Oh my God. There's our meteorite motorcycle.
Almost as fast as a meteorite, this guy.
I know. But that was one of the strangest experiences. In fact, I can't, in Oklahoma is flat. There is like nothing. So there was nothing, I couldn't miss anything. But I would love to know what I was talking to the other comic about right before that happened.
Right,
Because
yeah.
I feel like that would have been
the Anunnaki were like, hey,
thing.
Shush.
Yeah. Look, stop telling him that. Let's hurl a meteorite at her.
Right, yeah. Let's just shut her up.
Also, I hope it didn't kill anybody after it skidded off me. The road was like one lane because they had it all closed down for construction, and there were those big cement things on each side, so you couldn't get out of the road,
Yeah.
So I don't know what happened, but that was a pretty weird day.
That sounds like a very weird day.
Yes.
So it's believed that the intense paranormal activity in the Bridgewater Triangle could be due to an ancient Native American curse. So after the colonists settled the area, Native Americans were treated without mercy, and eventually a war broke out, pitting the Algonquin Nation against the new settlers. The leader of the, I believe it's pronounced Wampanoag tribe, was said to have been attacked by one of his own men before being beheaded by English settlers in 1678. During the war, a precious artifact called the wampum belt of the Wampanoag people was lost. So I looked into what a wampum belt is, and it has lots of different uses, but it's basically just a treasured and vital part of their culture. So this has been one of the reasons that many believe that Native American ghost warriors are said to haunt the triangle. We'll get into those guys a little later. They're awesome.
Yeah.
Have you heard of those guys, the ghost dancers?
No, but you know what? All of this rings true. This is very, it's very Mothman-esque.
It is. It is.
And that Skinwalker Ranch has the same sort of history. And I wonder if the fireball, there's that I'm sure you know the Skinwalker. It's on TV and everything. There's in one of the excerpts from the book, one guy was wearing in the Skinwalker Ranch was wearing night vision goggles, and whereas the other two guys were seeing a light, he was seeing a hole, and he literally saw things crawling out of the hole and jumping onto the ground. So
Yikes.
so that light, whether it was fire or something, maybe literally that's how a vortex gets opened.
That could be. Yeah. Oh, my God.
And I also think at that point, everything just comes through. Like everything, once that door is open, it's a whole bunch of stuff.
Well, that's exactly what this triangle is. It's like, if you can think of it, they've got it there. Because the triangle covers so much land, there are many significant landmarks within the Bridgewater Triangle known for paranormal activity. Perhaps one of the most well-known of these landmarks is the Hockomock Swamp. Located on the western part of the triangle, the Hockomock Swamp is not only the single largest freshwater basin in all of Massachusetts, but it's also the largest swampland in New England, spanning 5,000 acres.
Wow, a swamp just sounds awful anyway.
I love swamps.
Do you?
I do.
You know what? I'm sure they're not in Massachusetts, but I'm terrified of alligators, and swamps just make me think of alligators.
Oh, really? I mean, there's a lot of bugs. That's not fun.
Yeah.
But swamps and like little frogs and stuff, I don't know.
No, you're right. I tell people whenever I read tarot for people, they're always afraid of the devil card, and I always tell them, don't be afraid of the devil card. Be afraid of mosquitoes. They're going to kill us all.
Mosquitoes are absolutely going to kill us all, no doubt.
They're little tiny hypodermic needles. They got to go. We got to get rid. They're in the swamp.
I agree. Then they're all over the swamp.
Yes.
So the name Hockomock was actually given by the Wampanoag tribe and means the place where spirits dwell. Even the colonial settlers called the area Devil's Swamp, speaking of the devil.
Yeah.
The swamp is home to a mysterious 8,000-year-old Native American burial ground. So there's a legend that when archaeologists discovered the burial ground there, that they excavated the bodies and the ancient corpses mysteriously disappeared. Have you heard of this swamp? Have you been there?
I have not. And it's all, that was so long ago that I was in Massachusetts, but it all seems like the pieces fit. All the pieces seem the same. All they fit. In fact, I was just thinking about how, I just did an amazing podcast with someone, and we were talking about things happening around water, like how a lot of times people get inspirations in the bathtub, or something will come visit them in the bathroom because it's almost like it's all water. So this swamp kind of adds to it. The only thing that makes me think, because I keep comparing it to the Skinwalker, is I don't think Skinwalker had a body of water on it.
It was like in the middle of Utah, wasn't it? Like,
yeah.
I have no idea. But the water thing is an interesting idea. I never would have even considered that. But I guess you're right. Yeah,
that vibration seems to attract its own stuff. It's kind of like there's this book all about water spells, and it's just all about the magic of water. And so maybe that's it. Yeah. Plus, mosquitoes. Maybe the ghosts like the mosquitoes.
I've always been interested. Yeah, that could be. Probably not. I've always been interested in the fact that just water sustains all life on Earth. So
Yeah.
if you take that and flip it on its head and go, okay, like what about afterlife? Is there anything to do with water there? Who knows? I don't know. Maybe.
Oh, interesting question. Well,
Interesting.
people, yeah, that's funny because water is, well, if we think about it, are any of the elements known on the other side?
Yeah, who knows?
Yeah, maybe
Are
that's
they
just the Earth
necessary?
thing.
Could be. Well, if an Indian burial ground and a name that insinuates ghosts freely roaming the swamplands isn't enough for you, don't worry. There's also sightings of mysterious creatures here. These are my favorite.
Mm-hmm.
Several reports of Bigfoot sightings have been documented in the area, as well as that of Thunderbird, a massive pterodactyl like bird with a wingspan between 8 and 12 feet long that has its roots in Native American mythology.
That's our Mothman.
Exactly right. Yeah, right when you said that, I was like, yes, absolutely. The Mothman and the Jersey Devil are like very similar too. Like not the actual what the Jersey Devil's supposed to look like, but people's sightings that they call the Jersey Devil to me sound like a description of the Mothman.
A little mini Mothman. You know, the Jersey Devil was always an interesting one that I used to, because I used to play Atlantic City all the time. And they even had a little haunted New Jersey place on the boardwalk. And they had this little show, and they would show you the legend of the Jersey Devil, which was, I'm sure you know this, the woman, this young woman married a sea captain or something, and she didn't want to have kids, and then apparently she had 12, and she said, if I have a 13th child, it's going to be damned and look like this. And she did have a 13th child that came out and looked like that, and it ran away. And all, you know, it was all hairy and there was something wrong with it. So that's kind of the legend, which the bigger horror is, who has 12 children?
I agree. I did an
tells you-
episode a few weeks ago with Mike Kaplan, who's from Jersey, about the Jersey Devil. And he actually had never even heard of it, which blew my
Wow.
mind. I was like, how are you from New Jersey and you've never heard of the Jersey Devil? Like the actual legend of it.
I know. Maybe that wasn't, maybe it was actually her uterus that was just like, I got to get out of here.
Oh my God,
And
1,000%. That's how
the
I felt
Jersey
just
uterus.
reading it. I was like, absolutely
Yeah.
not. 12 kids? No thanks.
Yeah, so I don't know. It's interesting to me. I would love that it's supposed to be very little. I think it's supposed to be very small. But I don't, that would be great. But you know what's funny? Doesn't the Jersey Devil attack people?
It's from what I remember, it seemed like it attacked animals, like dogs and like chickens and cows and stuff.
Okay, so it is the same as the Mothman. It doesn't really
I
attack
know,
people.
like, and that's what I'm saying is that like it's not really that far from like Point Pleasant, West Virginia. So
Right.
all these sightings of like, oh, Thunderbird or the Mothman or what people are calling the Jersey Devil, even though it doesn't match like the description of what the Jersey Devil is supposed to look like. But what
Yeah.
people describe, you're like, I always go back to Mothman too. I'm like, no, that's Mothman. Like, I'm a huge fan of the Mothman. Like, love him.
Yeah, I don't know why, but that's like, I want to get wedding pictures printed up of me and the Mothman.
Oh, you absolutely need to do that. I know some people. I'll get you hooked up.
Okay, I need a big Mothman costume and a wedding dress.
Well, yeah. So nearby the Hockomock Swamp is the Anawan Rock. And also for any listeners that are like, that's not how you say that, I assume that that's not how, I don't know. I can't, all of these words are just like really hard to pronounce. But the Anawan Rock is the place where Chief Anawan is believed to have finally surrendered to the colonists. So with this act, he brought an end to King Philip's War. Local folklore asserts that ghost dancing by the angry warrior spirits of Chief Anawan can be witnessed here. By the end of that war, nearly 3,000 Wampanoag men, women, and children were either killed or boarded up onto ships headed for the West Indies to be sold as slaves.
Wow.
There are still small stone monuments to their lives that can be found right there.
Wow. There's mankind for you.
Ugh. Like, you're like, oh, that makes sense that they'd haunt it, for sure.
Yeah, it does. You know, and also, like, all these things, they sort of follow, they're all their own story, but there seems to be a thread that follows, and it's kind of like in Hawaii. they have those. They have the same thing. They have spirits that come through the islands, and one of the things they always say is not to whistle in Hawaii because it calls those spirits to you. And I interviewed a friend. Or you must know Kermit Apio. You must have had him on the show.
No, not yet.
Oh, he's from Hawaii, and now he lives in Seattle. But he was saying that he never whistles now. He can't whistle anywhere because that was so ingrained in him as a kid.
Wow.
Never to whistle in Hawaii. Yeah.
Because it would bring the spirits out, is what they believe?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
It brings the spirits, it calls the spirits to you of these warriors. And when they come, you're supposed to put your head down. I know two people that have had crazy experiences in Hawaii, like almost different than anywhere else. And there, like Florida, you have your water around it, all water around it.
Good point. That's a really good point. Yeah, I would love to do episodes in Hawaii for several reasons.
I know. Well, Southwest flies there, so save your miles.
I mean, after this COVID stuff, we'll see.
Yeah.
Another fascinating rock in the area. There's actually a lot of significant rocks in this story, which sounds really boring, but they're all really cool. But one that's out there is called Dighton Rock. So Dighton Rock is a large trapezoidal boulder about the size of a Volkswagen Bug. It's adorned with ancient carvings of people, animals, and symbols on its flat side. Both the origin and meanings of the markings have been hotly debated for centuries. So theorists have attributed the markings to ancient Native Americans, Phoenicians, Norse, colonial Portuguese, and even medieval Chinese sailors. In the 1950s, the rock was carefully removed by crane and was dropped on shore where a museum was built around it. So you can actually visit this museum and see the rock today by appointment and go check it out for yourself, which is really cool.
Yeah, they couldn't narrow that down. What did they have? They had medieval Chinese people, and who else? It seems like it's a big array.
Norse, a bunch of Native Americans, Phoenicians, like that. There's so many theories if you look online to like, oh, we think it was by this or that, or it just could have been a lot of different cultures that like, I guess, found the rock and added to it. I don't know.
I know, like high school kids signing the rock. Just it's our good to see you.
J+S. You're like, who wrote this? Could have been ancient Chinese sailors. The Freetown Fall River State Forest is another landmark within the Bridgewater Triangle. This 5,000-acre forest is the home to a Wampanoag reservation with 25 miles of trails for hiking, horseback riding, or riding dirt bikes. It's also been a site known for cult activity. So animal sacrifice and ritualistic murder by self-proclaimed Satanists have occurred in these woods. There have also...
That's another. It's funny how the paranormal sometimes it reeks of the worst of mankind.
It like goes hand in hand some kind. Not for us.
Yeah.
We're the best.
Right.
But,
we're the best.
Yeah.
Somebody's always done something horrible to someone else, though. That's how it goes.
The animal sacrifice is so sad. And people sacrifice is also a bummer. Why did I specify animals?
You're like me. Don't kill the animal. Oh, I'm so sorry for your loss.
What a bummer
about
the humans. Oh my God, a dog? What are you thinking?
Yeah.
There have also been a number of gangland murders and suicides attributed to the area. There have been reports of ritualistic animal sacrifice and mutilation in the forest, especially two specific incidences in 1988 where a single cow was found butchered in the woods, and later a group of calves, this is the saddest thing, were found to be like meticulously and grotesquely mutilated as though part of a ritual sacrifice open in a clearing.
Wow.
Don't kill a calf. What's wrong with you?
No, I know. It's funny. I think New Jersey, though, is definitely a body drop no matter where you go.
Yeah, yeah.
The mob is in New Jersey. I think that you can pretty much drop a body anywhere.
Well, this is in Massachusetts still. This is the Bridgewater Triangle.
Massachusetts, that's right.
Yeah, but, I mean, same thing. I'm sure that's everywhere.
I started wandering south. I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. So within the Freetown Fall River State Forest sits another notable rock known as Profile Rock. So Profile Rock is a natural granite formation that, like its title suggests, seems to resemble a human face watching over the woods. This is believed to be the site where Anawan, the Wampanoag historical figure that we discussed earlier, is believed to have received the lost wampum belt from Philip. Local legend would have you believe that if you're lucky, you can find a ghostly figure of a man sitting at Profile Rock with his legs crossed and sometimes with his arms outstretched, waiting for the wampum belt.
Wow.
Which is awesome.
I know. And, Massachusetts loves their rocks. They got Plymouth Rock. They got this Profile Rock. That's very interesting.
There's all kinds of rocks in this story, but I love them too. I find them fascinating also. Obviously, that's why I included it. But
that's what parents told their kids. All we had when we were young were rocks.
Exactly.
You kids are spoiled.
And it's
we had to write our poems on rocks.
Especially that one with like the ancient carvings on it. That gives me shivers. I would love to just see that in person.
Yeah. Is it the only thing in that museum if you have to make an appointment?
It's I'm pretty sure I looked at some pictures of it online and I didn't see pictures of the inside of the museum, but the outside of it looks really small. And it's just called, the Dighton Rock. I think it's just the Dighton Rock Museum or something, but is it Dighton? Yeah, Dighton Rock. It's pretty cool. It's worth looking at.
Yeah.
So rumors of the satanic and cult activity in the forest were said to have been right here at Profile Rock. It's also been the site of grisly murders and body discoveries. The entire forest is said to be accompanied by a strong negative energy. According to local legend, Native American warrior ghost dancers are said to perform ceremonial dances right here at Profile Rock. That's what I'd want to see.
Yeah,
sadly,
full body apparition. We want a show. We want dancing.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, let's put it up a notch here. We're the ghost dancers, the warrior ghost dancers. Are you kidding me? That sounds awesome.
Yes.
And they're just pissed.
They'll be on America's Got Talent. Next thing you know, they'll be dancing. They'll be dancing with the stars. We got to be careful.
We got to be careful with these guys. So sadly, the Sacred Rock Cliff, the face in Profile Rock, can now be found covered in crude graffiti, as people are wont to do, which sucks. That's such a. So I'm sure the warrior dancers just love that.
Well, that's like when people take stuff, like people take sand from Hawaii, they take it home, and they end up having to mail it home because they end up with some funky curse or something.
Right.
I think that's the same thing as with this. You have to be careful what you desecrate, I guess would be the word, or what you take home with you. Leave it. People take stuff home from haunted locations, and then the next thing you know, we're getting calls. Can you help me? There's something in the house. Just leave that stuff there.
Although I'll admit that doing episodes where I usually I physically go to the places, I have this idea in my mind of this dream home that things are put together that are all from different haunted places. I guess it's kind of like what's that couple that was really famous, the paranormal couple,
the Warrens.
Yeah, I guess the Warrens kind of have their little museum. But if you had this doorknob is from a haunted prison that I went to here, and you know what I mean, that would just be so cool.
Yeah, the Warrens do. I have a friend actually you might want to talk to, and he's called the Occult Collector, and he is in Connecticut, and he has his own museum in his basement. He has Ouija board walls. He has skeletons from a real dead prostitute. He has hex jars. What? He has all that stuff in his house.
Wait, he has a skeleton from a dead prostitute in his basement?
Yes, from France. A long, long time ago, though. I'm sure he has not been
out of context. Okay, gotcha.
Probably something you couldn't ship now, but he did get it from a guy on eBay.
That's awesome.
I think it was, yeah, but he has all that stuff.
That sounds really cool. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. But to incorporate it into a nice house, this is if money was no object. Just to
right.
It just sounds like it'd be so cool. Or being oh yeah, the wood from this door is from this haunted cabin. So I don't know. It just sounds like it'd be an awesome
I think I'd
place.
pass on that, but I
Yeah.
hope you would enjoy it.
I would love it. So, near Forest Street in West Bridgewater, you can find what's known as the Solitude Stone. This one is like very mysterious and interesting. This stone was found near a missing person's body and is sometimes known as the Suicide Stone. What's curious about the Solitude Stone is the 150-year-old inscription it bears. It was believed to be carved by the Reverend Timothy Otis Payne of the New Church of Jerusalem, a Christian sect founded on the principles of the occultist Emanuel Swedenborg, who I didn't look into, but I'm sure it's crazy. The Reverend was known for his belief that the physical world is the result of spiritual causes, and that the laws of nature directly reflect spiritual laws, which I would not disagree with.
Right.
His inscription on the stone is a sweet, melancholy, and mysterious poem that reads, "All ye who in future days walk by Nunkatesset stream, love not him who hummed his lay, cheerful to the parting beam, but the beauty that he wooed."
All right, I'm not a poet, but that made no sense to me.
Absolutely no sense. So everyone's been debating the meaning of this poem, why this guy wrote it, why it's in this stone. But just the idea of it, like, it sounds like a fairy tale to me, that you'd like come across this stone covered in moss and it has this like poem on it that's like, it's pretty, but you're like, I don't know what that means, but it sounds nice.
You're right. That could be Faye. I wonder if, are they sure that he wrote it? How
They're
is the
not.
legend unfold?
I'm not sure exactly how because it's 150 years old, but it says it's believed to be carved by this guy who had these spiritual beliefs. So I'm not sure exactly why it's attributed to him. I'm sure they know what they're doing.
Right.
I have no idea.
We hope.
Yeah, I mean, no one knows what they're doing. Let's be honest.
Right.
So, two other significant places within the Bridgewater Triangle are the Taunton State Hospital and Bridgewater State University. Are you familiar with either of these places?
No. I probably partied at Bridgewater State University once, but I can't quite remember.
So Bridgewater State University has an allegedly haunted dorm room and a mischievous ghost named George, who's believed to haunt the auditorium. George has been known to play with stage lights and sounds. But the Taunton State Hospital was a psychiatric hospital with a bit of a more sinister reputation when it comes to their hauntings. Visitors to the hospital have experienced their shoulders and legs being touched and pulled in certain places of the haunted hospital, which freaks me out. Just being touched by something that's not there is,
I know, yeah.
Just in pulled, like your legs being pulled, like scary. That's Nightmare City.
Yeah, when you ever go ghost hunting and someone in the group is like, "You can touch me," to the spirits, and I'm always like, "You can't touch me."
Yeah, absolutely not. Leave me alone.
Yeah, exactly.
It's also been home to orb sightings and allegedly used, again, by satanic cults in the 60s and 70s. There's a lot of satanic cults out there, I guess.
That would be an interesting thing if you could get the FBI files on that, or if they were online or something, to find that out about how many cults there were at that time or how many cults there are now.
Yikes. Yeah.
I know.
I mean, do your thing as long as you're not like brutalizing an animal, that's preferred. Or people.
Yeah.
Less important. No, not really. The hospital remains open and today houses 48 psychiatric beds, the Women's Recovery from Addiction program, a residential program under the Department of Youth Services, as well as a substance abuse program. So it's still being used for good. It's just haunted.
Good.
There are 2 roads within the Bridgewater Triangle that are said to be haunted too. Route 138 is said to be home to 2 spirits. One is a ghostly apparition that haunts the road near Hockomock Swamp, and the other is a ghostly truck driver on Copacut Road in Freetown. It's said, is that familiar?
It does sound familiar.
Have you heard of the truck driver?
No, what is the legend with this again?
It's said that he sometimes will flash his lights and wave his arms manically, but when you pull over to the side of the road, both the driver and the truck mysteriously vanish.
Yeah, that sounds. I think that I know that one.
There's also on Route 44 in Seekonk, there's an apparition known as the red-headed hitchhiker. So
she gets in the car and then disappears after a few minutes?
That's the one. So he has long red hair and a long red beard. He's said to be seen walking along the roadside. However, when someone pulls off on the side of the road to pick him up, he either vanishes then or he waits until he's in the back of your vehicle and only vanishes a short time after, which would scare the shit out of me.
Right, but who's picking up hitchhikers?
Yeah, come on.
Who's doing that? That's the scarier person there.
Haven't you seen any true crime show at all?
I know. That's the scarier person, is the person that actually picks up hitchhikers.
Yeah, never. Route 44 in Taunton was also the site. I'm not sure if that's pronounced Taunton, like the guys from Star Wars, or it's Taunton. I don't know. But it's also the site where 2 UFOs were seen by witnesses in 1976. UFOs are like super common in this area too. So there's really just no shortage of paranormal claims within the Bridgewater Triangle. You name it, they've got it. Bigfoot sightings are generally reported near Hockomock Swamp, or simply the report of a hairy 7-foot creature. We see you, Bigfoot.
Yes.
There are also reports of the Thunderbird, which I mentioned earlier. Thunderbird has also been seen in Hockomock Swamp, including a report by Norton Police Sergeant Thomas Downey. I feel like, I don't know if you've noticed this too, Karen, like I feel like when you're researching like any kind of paranormal claim, there's always notes that are like, a police officer saw it. Like they have to, like it's giving them more credit. Like,
right.
This law enforcement officer.
I know.
Like, okay.
I don't trust police or military. It was a military.
Yeah.
I don't trust either of them either.
Yeah, exactly. So, but like they include it to like give it more clout, I feel like. But it's like, I'm a phlebotomist. Does mine not count? Like if I see a ghost, doesn't that count? No.
Right.
Okay.
Your credibility is definitely not as high.
Not if I was a cop.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden.
Exactly.
But they're not just sticking to just the classic mythological creatures in the Bridgewater Triangle, which I consider Thunderbird and Bigfoot to be like classic mythological creatures. But then I've also seen that like a lot of people don't know these creatures that I feel like are like common knowledge. I'm like, you don't know the Jersey Devil? What the fuck?
Like, yeah, or you don't know you don't know Mothman. A lot of people don't know Mothman.
A lot of people don't know Mothman. I know. It's so funny because like I'm such a dork for this stuff, and I have been my whole life. So it's like if I grew up my whole life like believing in this and knowing what this is and like looking into it more, I just assume everyone knows.
I know.
But and I'm always that girl in the office that's like, oh no, let me tell you about the Mothman. Everybody sit down.
I had on Twitter, my handle was Karen, wife of Mothman Rontowski. And I have one of my clients, he's an old German guy. He said, you're married, huh? And I said, who am I married to? And he said, someone named Mothman. And
in my wildest dreams, sir.
I know. But isn't this weird? We all kind of like, I own a t-shirt that says Mothman is my boyfriend. There is no other cryptozoological creature that women are like, that's my boyfriend. Like, why do we all like the Mothman?
Because he's sexy. He is. He's super tall. Women love a tall man.
Tall man. You know what they say about a guy with a 12-foot wingspan?
Yeah. That's a very good point. He's also intuitive. Like he's kind of psychic. Like he knows stuff about everyone. He's imposing. But wait, the Mothman didn't attack any humans either. The Mothman only attacked animals, right? That's what I thought.
Right, yes. He scared some people looking in their windows and stuff, but we don't have him attacking. Or in the roads.
I think there's reports of Mothman like stopping cars and like being, and the movie that came out about him, I feel like makes him a lot more famous. I'm pretty sure I've seen in Point Pleasant, that they have a whole ceremony for the Mothman every year.
Oh, yeah, they have a festival.
Have you been?
And they have a beauty contest. You can win the Mothman beauty contest.
Oh my
and
God, I wish.
Yeah, they go over the top.
Have you been there?
Not. I think I've been through there on a road trip, but I didn't stop at the museum. You would like there. You have a little museum. You can look it up online, and they have some. I think I gave Ryan Singer my as a gift. I gave him my Mothman hunting license. I had a Mothman hunting license.
Cute. No,
I did.
so we have to go to the festival because that's also a bucket list item on my list. It's been there since I was a little kid. I'm like, I'm going to that.
Oh yeah.
We're going.
I thought it was, when you read that story, I always thought it was funny when they found out about the Mothman, everyone grabbed their rifles and went to the TNT area. Not one camera. Everyone had a rifle. Not one camera did they bring.
Amateurs.
Yes, that's life in the South. We need to shoot it. No, just get a picture.
Yeah, that's the word. Like, why do you have to kill this amazing creature? Like, what's the point of trying to kill it? And also,
I know.
Yeah. But like I do also think it's interesting that especially Thunderbird, like the descriptions of Thunderbird are so similar to the Mothman that it's like, there's got to be something there.
Gotta be the same. Gotta be the same.
But yeah, so not just the classic mythological creatures in the Bridgewater Triangle. There's both a terrifying and legendary dog and a cat that's reported in the area.
Oh.
So in 1976, a firefighter named Philip Kane reported an impossibly huge black killer dog ripped the throats out of two of his ponies before terrorizing the community for several weeks. So it's like this giant evil dog, which is crazy.
And that's like, is it like, I wonder if it was like Dogman where it was up on two legs or...
I didn't see anything really more about like describing that dog, but it was only one report that I just thought was interesting. And then in 1993, there were a series of reports about a large light tan cat, but it was the size of a Great Dane in the area that became what's known as the Mansfield Mystery Cat.
Well, that goes a little, it wasn't a cat, it was a little more of a wolf. But in the Skinwalker Ranch, there was the thing. It was more of a wolf, but it was enormous like that. In fact,
you know what? Now that you say that, these sound like Skinwalkers. Both of these.
Yeah, I wonder if that's sort of the Native American brand of cursing.
Yeah, they're just gonna skinwalk you.
Yes, yes, and I don't know what they seem to harass. But I don't know what they kill.
Yeah, I never would have. I just thought it was interesting that this one area had like a specific report about like a cat and a dog that were like, you know, larger than life and different.
Yeah.
Paranormal sightings in the area abound, including ghosts, orbs, poltergeists, cryptozoological oddities, and dozens of UFO sightings. People always ask me on the show if I'm going to include like UFO stuff, and I never do. But now I'm like, all right, there's so many in this area that I have to get into it. Yeah. In 1968, several people reported large orbs floating in the trees in the woods of Rehoboth. Am I saying that right?
Mm-hmm. Sounds good.
You're like, perfect.
Don't worry, I'm from Massachusetts. We murder vowels in Massachusetts.
Oh, perfect. So I'm killing it. Okay. And in the 1970s, UFO sightings in the area were reported relatively frequently. Reports of UFOs continued by, of course, law enforcement officers in the area and other people, probably as well.
Who weren't as important.
And the less important people as well. In 1997, another one of our friends, a law enforcement officer, claimed to see a very large triangular UFO with 3 white and red star-like lights hovering in the area, according to paranormal researcher Christopher Pittman. That to me, just like the description of it is really kind of cool. Just like a large triangle floating in the air with the 3 white and red star-like lights just hovering. Just those are the cool ones. It's not just like a flying disc. It's like, oh, what the hell is this?
Yeah, and I know people that have seen those, and there's nothing in the middle of them. Like they're hollowed out.
Yeah, I feel like I've seen so many like paranormal TV shows. I feel like I've
Mm-hmm.
seen an episode of one of those shows where they like did a reenactment where there was like a triangle shaped, almost like a ship or something floating in the woods. I'm
Yeah.
not sure if that is this or if that was something else, but you said you've known people that have seen something like that?
Yeah, yeah. My friend Ben Hansen and his wife saw it, and it's another one of those where there's zero sound, like
Yeah.
less than silence, and then it just goes away.
For some reason, that like vacuum of sound is more terrifying than like a loud like rumble to me.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's wild. There's also a general feeling like you're being watched when you're within the circle. One story that I thought like was kind of interesting and a little ominous was it was this ghost of a man in a dark suit, and he appeared to walk up to and then straight through the front door of an antique shop in East Bridgewater.
Nice. I
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah, isn't that just kind of like eerie and creepy? Especially
Yes,
that it's an antique shop.
because he's getting his own stuff back. Yes.
He's like, okay, hang on. This is mine.
Yes. Yes.
The area has inspired a documentary called The Bridgewater Triangle, directed by two locals, a Dartmouth native, Aaron Cadeau, and East Bridgewater native, Manny Famolaire. Sorry, Manny. Which premiered in October of 2013. It's also the subject of a TV series that's been picked up by FX and is currently in the pre-production phase, so you can keep your eyes out for that. The series will be a television adaptation of a short story called The Bridgewater Triangle by local author Brian Miller. Miller will play a role in writing the pilot, and Noah Hawley, the creator and executive producer of the TV series Fargo and Legion, along with his production company 26 Keys Productions, will be executive producing the apocalyptic horror thriller set in the area.
That's who you want. Those are some good shows that guy has right there. That's who you want to talk to.
Isn't that cool? And it's like, so now that you kind of know the story of the Bridgewater Triangle, I think it's going to be a fictionalized TV show, because it was something about like, only this like set of siblings or something can save the town from all these paranormal things that happen, or whatever. But it's based on these true paranormal accounts within that specific region.
Right. Wow.
Yeah. Well, that's what
Wow.
I got for the Bridgewater Triangle. There's so much there to like work with. Have you ever seen a UFO or anything like that?
I have not seen a UFO. I feel like I stayed away from the UFO thing for a while, and now I'm sort of fully immersed in it. And there's sort of two camps. There's my friends who call the aliens, they say they're getting downloads from them, sort of the friendlier camp. And then
Right.
there's sort of the terrifying camp, where people are being abducted and strange things are happening. I do believe, like I was saying, like I think there are visitations happening all the time.
Yeah.
I'm just not exactly positive what all of them are, or I believe we live within a dimension where other beings are right there. So it could be anything. I personally get very obsessed with fairies.
Oh, cool. I love that stuff too.
Yeah, they're very interesting.
Yeah.
But I just think it's all there. It's all there. And
Yeah.
some people get to see it and some don't. And I don't know if that's good or bad.
Yeah. So when it comes to ghosts, because that's mostly what you focus on, right? When it comes in the realm of the paranormal is ghosts.
I'm actually now, because I do my podcast and stuff, it's pretty spread out. In fact,
okay.
I've done quite a few episodes on fairies because I had an attachment. I had a fairy that I had trouble with them. I do hauntings. I usually don't worry too much about human ghosts. That's fine and that's fun. It's the other stuff where I get very sort of almost I have to be careful because I started working when I started my paranormal sort of career, I guess you could say. I started working with a guy that's a demonologist. So everything was a little more, a lot of caution. We're very cautious. about things. Even when we investigate homes, we're very, very cautious. So it's not quite the same as just running in and getting evidence. But I was introduced to so many other elementals and fae and jinn and stuff like that that I think it circles around a lot for me.
Interesting. Yeah, I'm very open-minded to a lot of that stuff. And what's crazy is I used to believe, like I used to only believe in ghosts because I had seen a ghost. So it's like, you experience one thing, you're like, okay, well that's a thing, but this isn't. Like I believe in aliens and ghosts. Like that's always checked a box for me. Demons and like demonic presences are something that I didn't fully believe until I heard enough stories from people that I trusted, or just even from even just watching TV shows. There's a show I love called Paranormal Witness on Sci-Fi.
Yeah, that one's very good.
It's so good.
It's the people's real stories.
Exactly. And that's what I try to do on my show with my minisodes when I talk to people about their stories. That I encourage them, like, hey, if you're making this up, don't bother calling, because I'm so curious that I'll ask so many questions that you'll start looking stupid.
Right.
And it's not because I'm trying to trip you up. It's because I'm just curious to like know more details. But I've had a couple episodes where people have talked about demons in their home. And now I'm 100% like, that's a thing. That happens sometimes.
Yeah, it does happen sometimes. And I know a lot of people that fool with stuff like that. And I've only been in one place where that really happened. And I have no interest in going in on that again. It was quite a thing. It was quite a feeling I'll never forget.
Were you willing to talk about it or?
I talk about it a little, but not too much because I don't want to call it back.
Oh, yeah.
But it was, when I work with a demonologist, and when people really have trouble, they will email me, and then there's a whole process before you get to him. There's a process of filling out paperwork, of asking a lot of questions, because you can't go in all like
blind.
With every solution doesn't fit every problem.
Right.
And you don't want to make something more aggravated. And a lot of times when you dig, and people think it's demonic stuff, you can find a real psychological connection that it's not actually demonic. But I went to someone's house without following the process. And the minute I walked in, they were like, oh, we forgot to tell you this story, that this happened. And of course, it's the most horrifying thing you've ever heard. And you want to yell at them and go, no, you open with this story.
Yeah.
This is the one. So I know when I come in, that's the story I need to hear. But that thing was there. It was the most horrible feeling. It was in every cell of my body. And it was very scary for quite a while after. And they are nothing to be fooled with, and it did show up, not with me, but it was just a bad experience. And I know that's kind of vague, but like I say, I don't want to get too. I'd never like to get too wrapped up in that story because it also tends to scare me.
Totally understood. Yeah, you don't have to say anything you're not comfortable with at all.
Ghosts we can talk forever. That I know the difference, and I hope I'm not wrong, I believe I will know if I walk into a situation like that again, I'll be able to identify it and get out.
And be like, okay, not for me.
Yeah.
So what would you say is like, if someone is experiencing something in their home, what differentiates, like what would be the signs that they're like, this is a demon versus this is just a, poltergeist?
Like a spirit, if it's a human spirit, they can move things that are maybe 1 pound. So you might see keys moving or little things moving. Once things that are heavier objects start moving, it's probably no longer human. Human stuff there's a way to cleanse your house, and there's all kinds of things you can use to keep the vibration. And you can get, a ghost should be causing minimal stuff. It might be showing up. It might be touching. It might be, sometimes with a ghost, you can literally ignore it and it'll get used to you or it'll go away. Depending what else it is, you can, some homes have fairy elements in them. Some homes have elementals. If it's a demon, it can. There's so many other things that would be going on. It could be mimicking someone in the house. You see your roommate over here, and you start talking to them, and they don't say anything, and then you realize they're not home. And then you look back, and there's a lot of things, voices. A lot of times they will, but Fae can also do that too. They can mimic someone's voice. In fact, on an investigation, me and my one of my partners were talking about fairies, and we had just said something like she said, I heard if you throw rice on the floor, the fairies will be distracted because they try and pick up the rice, which is, I believe it's not true, or it only applies to a particular home fairy that tidies up anyways. But then I said, oh, I don't know about that one, or something like that. And then she starts talking, and the Fae mimics her voice saying something completely different. So literally on tape, it's two of her talking, saying two totally different things. And what the Fae was saying, it was not what sorry about all the traffic. I'm just lying here because there's a nice breeze, and now I'm noticing how many motorcycles and people are hearing background noise. So human spirits tend to sort of, I could say, do human things. So they're not as mischievous, and but all this other stuff can get a little really creepy.
Interesting. Yeah, I honestly, just the imagery of talking to your roommate and them not really answering, and then realizing, oh, they're not home.
They're not home. Yeah. And it's usually, for some reason, it tends to be the back, like you see the back of the head, like they're standing with their back to you.
Yikes.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is about. To me, it's the subtlety of some of those things that are just way creepier than like anything big, you know?
Mm-hmm. You see the big horror movies, and you're like, yeah, this isn't it. But yet when you see, you turn around and a chair has been put on top of a table that wasn't on the table before.
Yeah.
That can be completely terrible. It doesn't take much.
It doesn't take much.
Always, and especially if it's not, if it's human, I think you can get that feeling of being watched, especially if it's a really evil human, you would get a bad feeling.
Yeah.
But when it's other things, and they take that it's usually cold, but when it's something else, sometimes it's almost like you can feel it in your bones, like it's a different, like this is a different feeling. That's what I feel like, at least.
Yeah. I guess like some of the stories of demons that I've heard, the only way that they knew that they were demons was like, I remember one of the stories on one of my minisodes, I think in season 2, someone was saying that like just a lot of weird stuff was happening, in their house. And then at one point they saw like a footprint, and it looked like a dinosaur footprint. Like it didn't look human or any other animal. Like it was this weird shape. And that would, I mean...
Yeah, that's enough. Right?
That's enough right there to be like, well, we're out of here.
They had Paranormal Witness had one of the best episodes about a house in Chicago, and it was called The Tenants.
Oh my God, you have an amazing memory.
Oh, I really don't. But it was about a house in Chicago, and this couple bought the house. And it was almost like what had happened before there, in the perfect storm, and there was an extra room in the cellar, and it was so like with the subtly horrible things happening. And I think they ended up selling the house for $12. Like they couldn't get rid of this house because it was so like, it was like you'd walk into the house and people knew right away, or something would happen right away, and it was just. That was I think they said they were trying to make it into a movie, but that was one of the most sort of horrific stories. And you can, like when you were saying in the beginning, you can tell when someone's lying, when the pieces don't fit.
Yeah.
And it's never huge. It's never really huge, but it's enough.
That's what I love. Actually, I think I know I've seen every episode of Paranormal Witness. And if I'm thinking of the same one, if it's the one that you're referring to, was that the one that they were like, I think they were like daughters that had like bunk beds, and they actually saw like a devil-looking creature in their room or something like that?
I don't think it was that one, but it was something about a woman had hung herself in the cellar, and then here's the way you would know this episode. The guy walked in to buy the house, and an old woman came around the corner screaming, "You will never own this house."
Oh,
like,
God.
And she was the tenant that was there. She was the person they bought it from. And it was almost like somebody had hung themselves in the cellar, and then they found this room in the cellar, and whoever her son was, or the guy that was living there, he had cut out, it was boxes and boxes and boxes of magazine cutouts of like one woman's leg and then a rib and then an arm, and just boxes of them. And a thing on the floor is though someone had been, if you wanted to chain somebody to the floor, there was a chain there. It was very, yeah, it was, and another couple moved in because it was a duplex, and each other kept hearing each other yell. In fact, if you want to see one of the scariest movies ever, it was called, there's a bunch of movies called A Haunting.
I mean, it's that subtlety. When movies do that well, those are because I love horror movies, but when movies do it well, where it's like, it's not over the top, it doesn't even have to be a big budget. Like, the Blair Witch Project, I thought was amazing. Super low budget, very subtle, and just suggestive of like, this is what it would be like. Love that stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, the haunted 1991 Sally Kirkland was starred in it, and that pretty much that was one of the first that really was just like, holy cow.
Well, I am watching this tonight.
Yeah, it's very good.
Thank you for the recommendation. Absolutely, I haven't seen this one.
Yeah,
but yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting what's all out there, and the more you open your mind to it, the more you kind of start seeing, and like you're saying, a lot of stuff that people just should not be open to, maybe for their best interest.
Right. People kind of rush in, I want to see something or something like, and I'm kind of like, well, don't be very careful.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, people always say that to me too, but I'm the naive one. I'm like, yeah, I'm jumping in. I love that stuff.
Well, but there's certain levels to going places, and then there's conjuring, and then there's Ouija boards, and then there's, all kinds of casting spells and stuff like that. So just everyone be careful. Do your homework.
I hope you had fun with us while we delved into the mysteries and obscurities of the Bridgewater Triangle. If you're ever in Los Angeles, you can find Karen as a paranormal panelist at the Los Angeles Comic-Con. Be sure to check out her podcast and web series, Paranormal Karen. You can also see her dry bar comedy special called Ridiculous Me on vidangel.com, where it just received over 3 million hits. While you're at it, check us out on Instagram too. You can find us with the handle @LitDarkPodcast. That's at LITDARK Podcast. Find us on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube, and make sure to leave a comment when you visit. We love hearing from you guys. Special thanks for this episode goes to my producer, Randall Lawrence in Cranival Studios, my graphic designer, Jonathan Cooper in Heck Yeah Studios, Karen for being such a lovely guest, and of course, all of you for listening. I'll see you next time right here on Laughing in the Dark.
Sources used for episode 12 of Laughing in the Dark include Wikipedia, Boston.com, Weird New England, Road Trippers, Enterprise News, South Coast Today, Atlas Obscura, and Mass.gov.
Laughing in the Dark is brought to you in part by Heck Yeah Studio. Heck Yeah Studio is a creative effort working with people to create meaningful things. At Heck Yeah Studio, they work with clients to turn their ideas or existing brands into real or better versions. Heck Yeah Studio is the place to go for custom illustration for a full range of branding services, like killer logos, great colors and typography, and fun illustrations for pins, signs, prints, shirts, vehicles, posters, or anything you can imagine. At Heck Yeah Studio, they work with love. Their dream client is someone who is passionate about what they do. At Laughing in the Dark, Heck Yeah Studio has designed our logo, all of our merch, and any posters or stickers that we have. I am so proud and lucky to work with such an awesome company, and I could not recommend them higher.